And good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of Talking Sports. You know, we had to do the intro all over again. We do stuff live, and you just can't holler cut and go back and redo it. When we first went on, Television Man was Jason. He like you, Joe, like all late and everything.
No,
so
he's not late.
Oh, he's early.
He's early, right?
So what we doing? We redoing the intro.
How dare you embarrass Jason on local TV and radio?
Nobody can see him.
Yeah, he'll be all right. He'll be all right. But we're going to do the intro all over again. Here we go.
Should I leave?
No.
I'll come back in 10 minutes.
Right, we want to make it natural.
And welcome to another edition of Talking Sports.
Front row.
Yep. I'm Sergeant Rock. That's Joe Stovall hiding out there in the back. That's Mike Cox. This is what we're going to be talking about this afternoon because we got a lot to talk about. We got NFL playoffs. You got the college championship game. We played Monday. Congrats going out to Illinois State. They play for a championship in Division I. I think tomorrow at 12 noon on ESPN. They'll be taking on North Dakota State University. Also, we're going to talk a lot like basketball. They picked up a win against, who they played? Maryland. And Wednesday night. Great basketball game if you didn't have to catch it. Also, we got some Bulls tickets to give away. They're playing the...
They're over there, aren't they?
Milwaukee Bucks.
Thank you, Jason.
Yeah,
Somebody's paying attention.
That's what happens when you're late.
they play them tomorrow. Also, it may not be a competition, but it's a talent competition. It's not sports. We're going to be talking with Erin Tomasello. She is the casting producer for NBC's America's Got Talent. And if you got some talent that you want to showcase, they're going to be auditioning folk up in Chicago.
I'm showing my talent.
Yeah, I see. They're going to be auditioning folks up in Chicago on the 25th and 26th, I do believe. No, the 24th and the 25th. Oh, I love that sound. Only if it was a Budweiser.
We gotta have a moment of silence.
Oh yeah, for our boy. God rest his soul. Stuart Scott passed this week, or was it last week?
It was Sunday.
Friday.
Okay, it was this week, Sunday. So we got all that to talk about. Aaron should be calling here in right around about 2:30. But let's get on to the Illini basketball game. They beat Maryland. Was it 64-57, something like that? I do believe the score was. Ravante Rice operated on his fractured hand Wednesday. He fractured his hand on Monday doing practice, so he's out 6 to 7 weeks, something like that.
He'll return in 2017.
Oh, really?
He's got a double red shirt.
What?
You got a regular red shirt and then an injury red shirt.
Okay.
It's like a double red shirt.
Okay, I'm sure you explained that.
Yeah, it's the front row. Fax you an email.
He should, so I know what the hell is going on. But actually, it's a great ball game, though. If like I said, if you didn't have to catch, Malcolm Hill stepped up when he scored like 20, 28 points, something like that. Excellent shooting for him. The defense was pretty doggone good. Nana Egwu finally showed some kahunas. Had like 5 block shots. Good inside presence for him.
I was just thinking of the big, slow white guy that can't make a dunk from this far away from the basket.
Who's that?
Maverick Morgan.
Maverick Morgan hit the front of the rim.
3 times.
Yeah.
All seriousness. First of all, Happy New Year.
Yeah, that too.
Very emotional basketball game on Wednesday. There was 3 factors. You mentioned most of the information. You talked about Malcolm Hill stepping up and replacing the points that you would normally get from Ravante. Nana with a serious defensive presence. But what you also saw is the emotion of the other players on the team who, for lack of a better term, are tired of getting dissed by guys like us, me specifically, saying that, hey, season's over. Lead scorer, leader, and rebounder is gone. you have a snowball's chance in Hades of winning not only against the 9th-ranked Maryland team, but just winning in general in this next stretch of Big Ten games. So the emotion of the night, home game, pride, a lot of intangibles. And they played some pretty good defense.
Yeah, they did. Some block.
Jalen Tate played really, really well, too.
Yes. You finally got to see some penetration and attacking of the glass from a point guard. I know a lot of people have been hitting Amari Starks pretty hard because his shooting slump and the fact that, just haven't seen any creation of offense from him, or for that fact, really anybody on the team.
Starks
so the team played pretty good basketball. Maryland found out what it's like to play on the road in the Big Ten too. They started off season 14-1, was 2-0 in the Big Ten coming in to that game. Now, a couple of things that happened early that sometimes we forget. But one of the lead scorers, Lehman,
2 quick fouls. He sat for a long time.
He got it in a minute and a half. He had 2 fouls. He was out the first half. I don't know if that makes a difference, but when you don't have one of your top players on the floor, and it was a 2-point game at halftime,
Right.
Maybe it's a bigger lead. We don't know how things change. Maybe Nana is not as aggressive in the post. If Lehman's on the floor, don't know. But hey, that's part of the game. That's why they play the game. So Illinois surprisingly efficient on the defensive end. Offensively, they still, to me, looked about the same.
Yeah.
Because there was stretches in the game that they go 6-7 shots in a row, no buckets. And the only thing that can keep you in games when you have those offensive lulls is good defense.
Good defense, yeah.
And if you notice, they play that zone the whole game.
Yeah.
I think John Gross has come to realization his team is still slow of foot and can't play the man-to-man defense that he's wanted to play since he's been here. But that's, to me, kudos to a coach who's not as stubborn as some previous coaches and says, we only play one defense here. They went ahead and played the zone all night.
Who's that?
He's in Manhattan.
There you go.
They also didn't give up during the second half.
No.
Yeah, because Maryland had a run.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't much of a run, but a run nevertheless. And Illinois come back down and get a bucket to keep the lead right around that 6 to 8 point thing. And the other thing, Joe's a basketball expert, but I just think the basketball gods were on Illinois' favor because Maryland was missing some shots they make any other day of the week. That one kid, it may have been Lehman, shot a layup or a dunk or something that just spun around the rim, and then fell off. How often does that happen?
Yeah, you're right, and like you said, sometimes it's
but
sun
Illinois
shines on a dog's butt.
Yeah. Illinois had to take advantage of those opportunities too, and they did. They played. I thought they played really well, given the circumstances, the emotions, and all that stuff. Notwithstanding what they lack.
Yeah.
The question I think would be going forward, when you see a team play, obviously a home game, lost your leader, etc. You just mentioned the word emotion. But now that the reality has set in, Ray's not going to be there for 3 to 6 weeks, depending on
It's his
other
non-shooting
factors.
hand.
Mm-hmm.
A couple days, he should be back. He'll be fine.
Soldier up.
Soldier, put some mud on it.
There he goes.
Rub some dirt on it. You'll be all right.
Let's go. But now you played that one game, showed everybody, hey, we can play without him.
Against a really good team.
But now the reality sets in, you're going to go on the road to Nebraska on Sunday.
Yeah, and Nebraska's still a top 20 team, weren't they?
No,
Did they
Nebraska. They've been struggling. Right now, I think Nebraska's 9-6.
Yeah.
They just beat Rutgers last night. But what I was going to say is that now you're starting to come to the reality of, okay, Ray's not here. Was that emotion? Was that talent? Combination? What was it? And you usually find out when you go on the road because you don't have anybody there in terms of a crowd to amp you up. The speech, let's go win one for Ray, that was for Wednesday.
Right.
Now you got to look in the mirror and say, Malcolm Hill, Can I score 28 again? Jalen Tate, can I score 10 and hand out 8 assists? Nana Egwu, can I be a defensive stalwart with 4 or 5 blocks, 9 rebounds, and when they need buckets in the post, I give it to you? You know, what happens now that you've played the game and the emotion is gone?
Gut check.
No more adrenaline. It's time to play on talent and experience. So Sunday's game is going to be an important test because they go to Nebraska, then they go to Northwestern. But then the next 4 to the next 7 are at home. So they get a chance to kind of come back and if they play 500 ball with Ravante being out, I would say that would be an A+. You know, if you think about the way some of these other seasons have started for them.
Right.
You know, because they were looking at Owen whatever run when Ravante got hurt Monday. I know myself personally, I'm thinking, oh, Maryland,
Gonna kill him.
oh, he's just going to wipe the floor with him. But it shows the type of pride and experience that these guys had and the fact that they really wanted to show the naysayers that they're more than just a one-man band.
Well, and the good thing is they collectively as a team have seen that they can play with the big boys.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if they can duplicate the effort on Sunday, because Nebraska, as you said, the 9-6, 9-7, whatever they are at this point in time, and I know Nebraska's a tough place to play, but if you play defense like you did against Maryland, you should be fine. They should be fine.
I think the other thing is coming off the loss they had to Ohio State last Saturday.
Yeah.
And how bad Illinois looked in that game with Ravante on the floor, I think is why a lot of people were surprised by the way they participated and executed on Wednesday. Because after what they did in Columbus,
Yeah, Ravante only scored, 4 points against Ohio State?
in the second half.
Yeah.
Now, Ravante had about 14 to 16 in the first half. Yeah. So, I forgot. You only watched the second half.
Yeah, I only watched
It's
that.
important to have.
Right. Come on. He didn't pay for anything.
Well, that's
that's
true.
what it is. Yeah. But, yeah, moving on to Sunday, Nebraska game, pivotal. Because Nebraska is not playing at the level I think most experts expected from them. You know, they returned all their 5 starters. A lot of people expected Nebraska to be in the upper echelon of the Big Ten, and you're not seeing that.
That's when the throat gets tight. You have all those expectations.
Right. Can't sneak. What it is, they can't sneak up on anybody.
Right, because
Everybody's
like
expecting.
they did last year.
Yeah. Everybody's like, oh, Nebraska, let's get ready for them. You know, last year they was able to tiptoe on and come up on some folks.
Last year they're just a football school, and now Tim Miles has got them playing, or had them playing really, really well last year, like you said, and you can't sneak up on anybody anymore.
So we'll see Sunday.
All right. Quickly, we want to talk to Bears hired Ryan Pace today. He's an EIU grad, played with Tony Romo. He's going to be their GM. They supposedly talked to Todd Bowles, I think, for the head coaching position.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think they need to go out and get some proven coach for this ball club?
Now, what the Bears need to do is exactly what they're doing. Clean slate, start over. You tried the offensive experiment, which was load up on the offensive side and get away from the tradition, which is tough defense and running, and it did not work. And not only did it not work, it exploded in your face. You know, when you invest $60-70 million in a malcontent quarterback, you know, you've got a wide receiver on meds, you've got a running back who gave you just enough.
First, ain't nothing wrong with meds.
Except when they're expired. Other than that, they're delicious.
Okay.
But seriously, you think about what the Bears did. They changed the personality of the franchise. I mean, since Papa Bear was around, defense and running. You know, from Gale Sayers to Walter Payton to Neil Anderson, even Matt Forte. That has been the centerpiece of what the Bears have been about. And they went out.
Yes, sir.
Hey, you got the email printed out?
Yeah.
He faxed it to you. Did you get it?
I didn't get the email fax. I know we're just sitting here like dead air now, you know.
Yeah, 'cause
Phone
you
rings like,
leave.
okay, Sam leaves, stop talking. But back to the Bears, I think, Todd Bowles, up-and-coming defense coordinator from the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah.
If you're going to go back to your roots, I think that's how you start, is you go get somebody who's defensive-minded, and you have to tell the fan base, we're going to have some lean years for the next couple, because we're getting ready to clean house. The Jay Cutlers, the Brandon Marshalls, all these guys, we got to let them go. And not because they're not good, but it doesn't fit the scheme and personality of what the Bears are all about.
Right.
Well, we'll get back to more about the Bears and some more about the NFL playoffs, which get underway again this Saturday and Sunday. We got Dallas playing the Green Bay Packers. Who thought Dallas would go as far as they did?
Jerry Jones.
Well, I didn't. I still hope to. But they go up to the frozen.
Didn't you say we was going to move on, man?
Yeah. Anyway, on the phone line.
Are we going to do a commercial break?
No, we're just going to go straight to her.
We're just going to go straight to Aaron?
We're just going to go straight to Aaron.
Aaron who?
Tarcello or Tata. Anyway.
Looks like Tomasello?
That's her. She's a casting director at NBC's America's Got Talent. That's with who are the judges? Let me see.
On America's Got Talent?
Why don't we ask her?
Well, Aaron will tell us when she comes on the air, but you've got to do a job, which is introducing Aaron. If you've got talent and what she's looking for.
You know what me and you gonna do? We're gonna go in there and do our ventriloquist act. That's what we're gonna do.
Oh, you want me to sit on your knee and you'll pull my string?
There you go.
I bet you we'd win.
I bet you we will too. On the telephone, we have Erin Tomasello. She is the casting producer for NBC's America's Got Talent. They're going to be hosting auditions up in Chicago on the 24th and the 25th.
Then they're going to be down in St. Louis, January 26th. So if you can't make it to Chicago.
All right, there you go.
He's faster.
There you go. He faxed the email.
Erin, how you doing?
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me.
Aaron, first of all, thanks for coming on Talk Sports at WBCP 1580. Now, being the casting producer of America's Got Talent, you see all types.
We absolutely do, yes. We're kicking off season 10. We're coming down to Chicago January 24th and 25th. And as you mentioned, we're also going to be in St. Louis January 26th. All of that info is right there on our website, www.agtauditions.com.
Fantastic. My question to you is, what are you looking for?
All right, guys. So we are looking for all kinds of variety. It's any age, any talent, any dream. I mean, if you're sitting at home or you're driving in your car and you can think of something kind of spooky and crazy that you think is awesome, we want you to come down and show us what you got.
Now, I know when people say, I can do this, I can do that, but, you've got to fit a lot of acts in a short period of time. How much time, if for say myself, Joe Stovall, multi-talented individual like me, how much time do I get to come in and audition?
Well, it's a fun day. I mean, I'll tell you the whole kind of rundown of what to expect. So you show up, bring your friends and family, come support your home state. We've got camera crews, film crews, everybody's there. It's a lot of excitement. So once you get there, make sure to have your energy and your game face on. And when you're actually in front of those producers, it's a 90-second interview. It's a 90-second audition.
So you get 90 seconds to get your 15 minutes of fame.
Absolutely. And, it's a huge platform, Nowadays with social media, these guys don't even have to win $1 million in the Vegas prize. They don't even have to make it to the top 20, and they're becoming household names. So it's a great platform to get your craft and your art and your name out there.
How long have you been the casting producer for America's Got Talent?
I've been the casting producer for about over 10 years, but this is my second season with America's Got Talent, and I absolutely love it. It's a great show, and like you said, we're going into season 10, and we're still so strong, opposed to, some of those reality competitions that are kind of fading off. And I think it's because we are variety. It's, we couldn't dream up this.
Now, Sam was going to ask the question earlier, and he had a little brain freeze there, but who are the judges? on America's Got Talent?
So we're still working out all the contracts. We're a little early in the game. However, we do have Nick Cannon returning. He's our host. And Howard Stern signed on. So we've got those two locked down and just doing the final step with the rest of the judges.
Oh,
Wow. Howard Stern, Nick Cannon still hosting? Hot show.
What's the lady that used to be with the Spice Girls?
LB.
Yeah.
So like I said, we're still working out all the information on the other judges. So she may or may not come back. We just have to finalize the contract.
Okay. You're also supposed to be giving us some passes, the front of the line passes. Why don't you tell us about those?
Absolutely, guys. We are going to offer your listeners 5 front of the line passes. These are a huge, huge advantage. I mean, especially because you guys are dealing with that chilly weather down there, I know. So what these front of the line passes do is it's like a fast pass at a theme park. So when you show up, you see that line wrapped around that block, you can bypass that line and expedite your audition process. So it's a huge advantage that we're offering your listeners.
When you do these auditions, how many people do you anticipate showing up from past experience?
Right. Well, a couple thousand. I mean, we have an amazing team. It's a huge team. We're a well-oiled machine. Everyone is guaranteed to be seen as long as they come before the doors close. So Chicago, doors will open at 8 a.m. If you come before that 7 p.m. cutoff, you are guaranteed to be seen.
So from 8 a.m. in the morning till 7 p.m., you will have those doors open for anybody who's got talent, who's coming on to audition for your show.
Absolutely. And over there in St. Louis auditions, doors open at 12 p.m. and goes till 9 p.m. And like I said, that website, www.agtauditions.com. We want everybody to go over to the website, check it out, go pre-register, get all your info there. You can fill out your paperwork, and that's where all the good stuff will be.
Now, I know on the website it has the venues, but share with the listening audience what venue in Chicago and what venue in St. Louis will you guys be located at?
Okay, awesome. So in Chicago, we are at McCormick Place. It's 2301 South Indiana Avenue in Chicago, Illinois. And in St. Louis, we're actually going to be at the St. Charles Convention Center. The address is 1 Convention Center Plaza, St. Charles, Missouri. So we are excited.
I bet you are. I mean, if you're anticipating 2,000 people, and hopefully the weather will be a little more conducive than what it is right now for the people to come out to McCormick Place and to the convention center down in St. Louis.
And I want to remind everybody that we will bring everybody inside. Our places where we hold our open calls are big enough where nobody's standing out for hours in the cold. We bring everybody inside where it's warm, and that's where we line them up.
Okay.
Now, Aaron, before we let you go, I'm doing this for 10 years and 2 years with America's Got Talent. I know you've seen some crazy stuff. Who's the craziest act, or what was the craziest act you ever saw, whether it be audition or on the show?
All right, I think my craziest thing I've ever saw was this lady that could crush a beer can with her breath.
Hey,
Fits right in on this show.
there you go.
What?
It
I'm
was pretty
speechless.
frightening and jet counting and tagging. That's what I mean, guys. If you're driving in your car or listening at home and you do something amazing, kooky, crazy, whatever it might be, come down, show us your stuff.
Now, one last question. Was there beer in the can when she did it?
You betcha. I think it's about halfway full.
She's for me.
There you go.
Well, Aaron Tomasello, first of all, thank you for coming on Talking Sports WBCP 1580. I know you are super busy, so we really appreciate you taking time out of your day to come on Talking Sports to share this information about auditioning for America's Got Talent. Everybody out there, go to the website, www.agtauditions.com. 24th and 25th of January in Chicago at the McCormick Place. January 26th down in St. Louis at the St. Charles Convention Center. Aaron Tomasello, thank you very much. Talking Sports WBCP 1580.
Thanks so much, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Take care.
All right, Aaron. And you won't have to be able to crush a beer can with your breath. Just give me a call. I got this can A grape soda ready.
Say something quick. Cut him off. Turn his mic off.
We'll be having auditions at 405 here at WBCP 1580, 4th and Tremont.
I got a can of grape
Cans
soda.
optional.
I got a can of grape soda ready. Anyway, go sign up to the website. And we get those passes for our local talent that wants to go audition. We're going to pass those out.
Figaro.
Let you go up there and do your thing. We're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, we'll dive into the NFL playoffs and much more. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. Cox Sports WBCP 1580, the 2015 edition. You can still smell that Corinthian leather in this show.
Still that new car smell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You want floor mats?
Cost you $300
That's all right.
or $29.99 at Walmart.
Do like we did back in the old days. Just use old newspapers.
That was called a horse. That wasn't a car.
Giddy up.
Got a chance to talk to Aaron Tomasello, America's Got Talent casting producer. Go to www.agtauditions.com. They're going to be in Chicago on the 24th and 25th of this month, and St. Louis on the 26th. If you have a talent and you think you should be on national TV embarrassing yourself and your family, go to that website, www.agtauditions.com.
She called back and is emailing me the front of the line passes as we speak.
Front of the line passes.
Fax them to me.
Fax the email, please. Stat. Yay. It'll be June. We'll be doing the show.
I'll fax it to you.
It's a seal. It's a seal.
Anyway, if you wish to audition on one of those days
Heidi Klum.
and you got some talent, come show it to me and I'll give you a front of the line. Matter of fact,
Even if you ain't got talent.
next Friday,
Next Friday.
You might want to
Is it-
clarify that a bit.
here's what we're going to do. Next Friday,
Next Friday
you come down here to this show, this program.
at 4:05 with a can of beer.
No,
Half
okay.
empty.
But that's if you're a talent, that's okay. But come on down here with your talent, and we're going to give you one of those front of the line passes to go up to the audition. How's that sound, fella? That sounds fair?
Hey, you called it.
So, you know,
Boss.
tell your friends that got talent.
And
Legal talent.
And here's the thing about the America's Got Talent. Sometimes you may have talent, but your friends don't think you do because they're your friends.
Mm-hmm.
Forget them. Nothing happens in this world without somebody taking the first step.
That's true.
So step out there.
That's true.
Come on down.
What they say, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with
The first step.
first step.
And the first step is here.
That's it.
WBCP.
Come down 904 North 4th Street, Suite D. Anyway, a lot of people know where we're at. Just come on down here to the studios next Friday with your talent. Showcase it, and we're going to give you one of these front of the line passes
What time should they start showing up?
before Joe gets here. So we're going to say about,
Anytime
5.
before 2:20.
yeah, about show up about 1:30. About 1:30.
I love a parade.
Yeah, about 1:30. And those first 5 acts are going to get one of these front of the line passes. So there you have it. I'll put it up on Facebook too for all those who
Facebook.
Facebook. I don't tweet, so
And if not, we'll fax the email.
most definitely. Anyway, back to the NFL
Ooh, the playoffs.
playoffs. Last week we got to see the what they call them, wild card game.
Mm-hmm.
Cowboys lose again. Or Detroit.
Yeah, Cowboys in Detroit. Arizona lost to Carolina. Surprising,
That was a bad game.
was it?
Arizona.
I didn't.
I think Arizona ended up with 77.
Yards, right?
total yards in the game. Not 77 rushing, passing.
They set a record.
77 yards. They had 9 series where they gained 1 yard or less out of 16. 9 plays.
That's unheard of in the NFL.
No, it ain't. Because there was other teams on that list who did that same thing. But in modern day football, let's put it that way, with the way the rules are set up now, and you know, you can't touch anybody unless you're a cowboy after 5 yards. And we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
I mean, my question is this, and I'm going to shoot it right to my esteemed colleague, Mike Cox. Because we watch a lot of college football. And we watch a lot of college quarterbacks. You know, is our pro quarterback backup guys that bad? You cannot find a guy with all these teams spread, throw it here. Ryan Lindell, is that the best the Arizona Cardinals, a playoff team who had won, 9-10 games, that was the best quarterback they could put on the field in an NFL wild card game?
What other third string quarterback do you know?
At the pro level?
Yeah.
That's my point. Who's Ryan who?
Right. But that's my point. What I'm grasping at is we watch college football every Saturday.
Right.
And you see all these quarterbacks. Everybody looks good. We watch these bowl games where the Baylor quarterback threw for 500 yards?
Something like that, yeah.
And then you get to the NFL and you can't get a comparable third string quarterback. Here's my point. There's 32 teams. So that means you'd have the 96. I'll fax you that email.
Okay.
96 quarterbacks if you got 3 quarterbacks on each team.
All right.
Well, and you got 114 college teams
That's
that play D1.
There you go.
But I think that's more a reflection. We always hear everybody say that, you know, as you go up in levels, the game gets so much quicker and faster and bigger and da 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 da. This may be a very good example of how true that really is.
And not everybody's cut out to be an NFL quarterback.
Well, Ryan Lindell definitely.
Tony Romo's been doing it for how long?
Well, he's been doing this since 95.
Yeah, what's his name in Chicago? Cutler.
Cutler.
Well, I just think it's more of a reflection on the guys that are starting quarterbacks, second string quarterbacks, however you want to look at it, in the NFL, how truly talented they are.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at what Breeze does, or what Peyton Manning does, or what Tom Brady was doing, or even before he got hurt, Carson Palmer was doing for Arizona. And I mean, the only other example to compare it with is, you know, it's college, but it's Ohio State. And I don't think anybody would say that Cardale Jones is a third string quarterback.
Right.
I'm sure he can start for any team in the country, but apparently that difference, that gap in talent, is a lot greater than people give folks credit for.
I guess it. I mean, you nailing it. You got some great points. I'm just sitting there and I'm like, this cannot be an NFL football game.
Well, but
when a quarterback can literally, I mean, you know, I know it's easier said than done, and you know, buddy of mine always talks about, well, when the ball is snapped, you got 21 other guys moving and this, that, and the other.
Well, that's at every level of football, though.
Exactly. And I'm like, you can't even throw a simple out?
Well, but how hard is it to turn around and hand the ball at Beanie Wells?
Right. And then how hard is it to turn around and fake hand it off and pull it back and throw a little
to the guy with the really long dreadlocks,
who's one of the greatest receivers of all time. He's on your team.
Yeah.
So just get it in his vicinity.
Somewhere close.
You know.
But can you put all this blame, that loss, and that lack of yardage just on the quarterback?
Oh, no.
You got
not
to
at all.
think.
I mean, it goes everywhere. But here's why I do that. The same reason why what Mike named off that list. Quarterbacks get too much credit when they win. That's why we got to nail them when they lose, because it is a quarterback-driven league. If you look at who's left in the playoffs now,
it's a who's who of quarterback.
that's it. That is it. I mean, you look in the NFC. You're going to have Carolina with Cam Newton take on Russell Wilson, two of the best young quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're talking about Tony Romo and Aaron Rodgers, two of the best veteran quarterbacks. I know everybody, we throw Romo under the bus a lot, but if you look at it,
He's still there for a reason.
that's it. That is it. The teams that are not there, they don't have good quarterbacks. Or their quarterbacks are too young and immature to be there right now.
Or the good quarterback they have's hurt,
Mhm.
walking around in a boot or on crutches or whatever.
Look what's
the case
going to happen in Denver. You're going to have Peyton Manning play against the guy who replaced him, Andrew Luck,
Mm-hmm.
in a playoff game. Then the flip side, you got Joe Flacco, Super Bowl MVP from just a couple years ago, going up against Tom Brady, who's been there since turn of the century. That's the like Mike said, that's a who's who of who's playing in the NFL. And you can take all these other guys, defensive ends, running backs, receivers, linebackers, etc., and interchange them. But those guys under center, to me, are the difference makers.
Well, and the interesting part is, in the two games you mentioned, the New England game and the Denver game, some of the folks that I heard talking early are thinking that the replacement understudy, the younger quarterback's going to beat the vet. Because they're thinking that Luck will beat Manning. I doubt it. And they're saying Flacco may beat Brady, which I can see. I can really see that.
Well, let's start with the Denver-Indianapolis game. Indianapolis is coming off a 27-10 victory at home over Cincinnati. Luck looked real good in that game there. Peyton Manning didn't end the season in a Peyton Manning-esque.
Well, yeah.
He
struggled.
He struggled. Now they're going to Mile High where they played the first game of the season, and Denver won 34-27. But that was when Manning was, 5 touchdowns, 5 different receivers, chopping you up. Age and injury are starting to catch up to Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
And I think Denver's going to rely more on C.J. Anderson running the football against Indianapolis than the arm of Peyton Manning throwing the ball. This almost reminds me of when John Elway got Terrell Davis. And Terrell Davis actually carried the load for Denver, and Elway really didn't have to do as much as he used to.
Well, Peyton Manning started off the season real good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he didn't broke the record and this, that, and the other.
Well, but he
But
was
I think,
healthy.
but I think the beating that he took throughout the rest of the season is more or less starting to take its toll on him.
And I've heard some folks say that they're questioning his arm strength this time of the year, and then they draw that line straight to the neck injury and all that stuff. So, I mean, who knows?
With that being said, Denver against Indianapolis, who's going to come out victorious and give us a score? It's not going to fall from up there. I checked it last week.
Denver 27-24.
27-24 Indianapolis.
Colts, by what Denver beat them earlier this year, 31-27 or whatever.
Ooh, Colts.
I think Luck's playing really well right now, and his receiving core is playing well, and their defense is good. So, Colts.
I want to go with the Colts. The question for me is the rushing attack for the Colts. Now you got Boom Herron, who did a good job last week against Cincinnati. Can he do the same thing against Denver's defense? Denver's had a week to rest
In
Denver, Mile High or whatever, the Gillette Stadium or whatever they call it.
Mile High.
I'm gonna have to go with Denver just on home field. It's gonna be. I believe it's gonna be a close game, but I'm just gonna go with Denver just because it's in Denver
Text your boy Howard Griffin.
and find out.
Ask him.
Faxing.
I'll fax him an email.
Fax him a text.
Other game in the AFC we talked about, Baltimore travels to New England. Now, remember in 2012 when Baltimore went there and won, that's how they won the Super Bowl.
Yep.
So now you got Flacco. The season started off for Baltimore, obviously not good with the Ray Rice thing. Justin Forsett, free agent signee from Seattle. I don't think anybody would have expected him to come in and run for 1,300 yards, but he did. The other thing that I like about Baltimore is Steve Smith Sr. He's one of those guys, Megatron can get all the attention. Dez Bryant can get all the attention. But when it comes down to wanting somebody in your foxhole, and I know you military guys can appreciate this terminology, Steve Smith's the guy you want in your foxhole.
He's been doing it a long time, too.
And when he does it, when the chips are down and everything's in the middle of the table, I really believe that Baltimore's got a puncher's chance going to New England.
Think so?
Thoughts?
Well, I don't think so. I'm gonna have to go with Brady. He might be doing a lot of cussing on the sideline, but I don't think they're gonna come out a winner.
I'm siding with Joe on this, I think, and I just hope one of them DBs from New England says something to Smith about being old or something like that. And then if he does, him and Flacco are going to have a great game. But I think Baltimore's playing well. I can't remember what the stat was, but something about Flacco is just ungodly in the playoffs. And I like the way they're playing. Like you said, they're playing well. They got over the Ray Rice thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, but New England's old.
I like Baltimore. We talked about Flacco and Justin for a second, but I also like the fact their defense, what they did in Pittsburgh. I know Le'Veon Bell didn't play last week for Pittsburgh, so that changed the dynamics.
Yeah, but Roethlisberger did.
But Roethlisberger played, Antonio Brown played, and Baltimore's defense was still there. I'm going with Baltimore. Once again, close ball game, but I think Flacco and Smith combination is going to be the difference in this ball game on the AFC side. NFC, the under 500 Carolina Panthers go to Seattle. Now they're starting to gel, even though they're under 500. We got to see them last week run the football down Arizona's throat. They've got D'Angelo Williams and Jonathan Stewart back, playing healthy, and Cam Newton. Cam Newton's in his 4th year. I know he catches a lot of flack similar to RG3, but the thing I like about Cam Newton is similar to what we talked earlier about Cardell Jones. Cam Newton is like 6'5", 250.
Whatever he is, yep.
And if they run that zone read and he pulls it out and he can get off the first level and get to a linebacker or a defensive back, he can fall for 10 yards.
Yeah.
That keeps the chains moving. And when he keeps the chains moving, that keeps the crowd quiet. If that keeps that crowd quiet, Seattle loses that 12th man.
I don't think they're going to lose the 12th man.
I don't either.
You got Russell Wilson, defending Super Bowl champion quarterback, Legion of Boom. Their offense isn't as prolific on the passing side, with Golden Tate being gone, a couple of other guys not out there.
But they still get the ball down the field.
You know, Percy Harvin was a big threat in the Super Bowl.
But they still get the ball down the field.
And they're playing in Seattle.
Yeah.
And how, honestly, how healthy is Cam Newton?
Yeah. I'll say it'll be close first half. Seattle pulls away in the second half.
Beast mode.
Seattle 27, Carolina 13.
I'm just going with Seattle.
I'll go 27-21. Seattle.
And Mama, what's her name with the suit?
The beer and chili cheese or whatever that
what's up with
crap.
that?
Who comes up with these flavors?
Yeah, who made that up?
They just put 2 drunk guys in there and say, what would you eat in a bowl?
It's good. Yeah, right.
Right. Next. Shit.
Okay.
Last game.
Dallas and Green Bay up in Green Bay. It's gonna be minus something degrees. They said it's going back to the last time Dallas played in Green Bay was in 1967.
Ice Bowl, right?
Yeah, when they had the Ice Bowl. Uh-oh. Must be an important phone call. Go ahead. I'll get back.
You go ahead and handle your business. Me and Michael just sit here like we normally do.
Yeah.
Like you said, Ice Bowl 1967. Jethro Pugh
Died recently.
just passed away. The guy who was for a GOAT for many a year until they reviewed the film and saw that Jerry Kramer was actually offsides, but that's neither here nor there.
You don't have any issues with that, do you?
No.
You checking.
No, I don't have any issues with cheating Packers, but I will say this. as objective as I can be, because being a Packer hater forever, Aaron Rodgers is just sickening how good he is. It's just,
yeah.
You mentioned Marcus Mariota only having 2 interceptions. It's Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
An NFL quarterback having, if he only had 10, I'd still be like, that's great.
Oh, yeah.
He's got 2.
Yep.
And other thing about Green Bay, you've watched an interchangeable amount of receivers over the years. Yeah. Tight ends, receivers, backs, it doesn't matter. It's just that one guy under center. I know the calf issue came up in the Detroit game. He was able to set out with the bye week and get some treatment. They say he's got a tear and a strain. To me, I think it's a lot of fodder for the talking heads.
Gamesmanship.
That's it. The Cowboys, terrifically purchased win last week. I think Jerry Jones wrote probably the biggest check to the NFLPA and to the referees.
There's no face guarding in football.
There's no face guarding, but there is holding.
Yeah.
And
allegedly,
yeah. If you, but even with that being said, the Cowboys were able to escape.
Right.
But even by escaping, you have to give them a tip of the cap, because that was the situation where Romo normally throws the pick and ends, fumbles the snap, fumbles the handoff. He does something to continue his legacy as a choker.
Right.
He didn't do that this time. And because he didn't do that this time, that's why they're obviously in the game in Lambeau on Sunday. He's got DeMarco Murray, 1,700-yard rushing. He's got Dez Bryant. The question...
Speaking of meds.
Illegal. The question is going to be, I just mentioned Aaron Rodgers and only turning it over twice in terms of interception. Who can hold on to the football in the elements that they'll be playing with on Sunday?
Romo's from Wisconsin, came down to Charleston to go to school and all that good stuff. But I think more importantly than the elements, because, they've all played in it at some point this year, really crappy weather. I think it's going to come down to, is Aaron Rodgers really hurt? And if his calf is even remotely healthy, they wrap it up, rub some dirt on it, whatever, and he can play, Cowboys may be in for a long day. On the flip side of that, if the Cowboys play like they did last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was against Detroit, Green Bay could be in trouble.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a good game in the fact that all the Cowboys are 8-0 this year on the road. They haven't lost a game on the road yet. The pressure is going to be squarely on the shoulders of the Green Bay Packers.
If they're unbeaten at home, I think this year. Yeah.
If Aaron Rodgers can't move, because what makes him so dangerous is not the fact that he sits in the pocket and throws
he slides a little bit.
Right. That little slide step to the right or the left, or him rolling to the right and slinging that thing 50 yards across the field to the left. Like I said, objectively, I think it's fantastic. But as a fan of a team within this, I just hate it.
Right.
Because you cannot defense that.
Right.
Because no other quarterback can literally throw the ball into the windows or non-windows that he throws it into. And he also looks like he's having fun doing it.
Yeah.
Like you might sack him and he'll get up and pat you on the butt and be like, all right, you got me that time. Yeah, right. And then he'll come back around and wham, 25-yard slant, touchdown, Packers up, and then he gives you a pat on the butt like, I told you I was going to get you back. So I think with all of that and the fun and potential MVP out there for Aaron Rodgers, and the fact he's had a week to rest it, I think I'm going to have to go with the Packers 28, Cowboys 17. I think the issue for the Cowboys is going to be, you talked earlier about Dez Bryant and meds.
Yeah.
If they roll their defense to Dez Bryant to frustrate him early, I can see his emotions.
It's going to be a long game.
Getting into him to where he's now on the sideline, screaming at
everybody.
Romo, screaming at the offensive coordinator, screaming at the quarterback's coach, and everybody's trying to tell him, Dez, it's a full quarter game.
Relax.
And I think the other thing is if they spend their time trying to feed him, which as opposed to feeding DeMarco Murray, because that's where I really think
That's who
Cowboys.
they need to feed.
I really think the Cowboys can win the game if that's what they do. If they just turn around and hand him the football, because the Packers defense on the run side, suspect.
Well, and the Packers' best defense is Aaron Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, if you're right. If they turn around and they hand it to Murray, because who ran better this year in the NFL
Nobody.
than DeMarco Murray? Nobody.
Nobody.
And he was running for hard yardage, too, a lot of times.
What I don't want to see, or what I don't want to hear, is that freaking organ. When they start, when you start hearing that thing, and all the cheeseheads are out there half naked, drinking beer, and you see players jumping into the stands, game over.
Yeah.
If you start hearing that thing early, over with. It's
Well,
over with.
There's, even with the hat I'm wearing, there's absolutely no way on God's green earth, or white earth, as it is in this part of it, can I go with the Cowboys. So I'm looking for the Packers to win. And I think your scores will probably end up being really close to being right on, spot on.
28-17.
Something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope I wish there was a way both of them could lose.
Well, yeah, that's true, too.
But obviously it can't happen that way. So I guess we got to take the lesser of the two evils. And I don't have to hear, how about them Cowboys? No more until next year.
Well, and along the same lines, Tony Romo does have a habit of choking at the most inopportune time.
Mm-hmm.
And the best game that will happen, I know that the playoff game's not, it's in Lambeau, but the best game that's going to happen in Jerry's world is next Monday.
Right. Transitioning to that, we sat here and talked about the NFL and the 4 divisional games that will be played Saturday and Sunday. And if you got an opinion, give us a call, 359-9227, 359-9227. But moving on to the NCAA College Playoff Championship game.
D1.
I never, ever, in my lifetime, would have thought that we'd be having this conversation. I know there were some inks about the fact who the 4 teams were, but just the fact that they had a 4-team system, to me, was really exciting. Florida State. First, I'll say this in their defense. A lot of people talk about Jameis Winston, a lot of off-field stuff he does, but on the field, Jameis Winston, to me, is one of the toughest competitors we've seen in years, because he had not lost a football game
In 2 years, right?
since 2012. That's right. Now, this one, when they lost to Oregon, that was the old when it rains, it pours.
Oh, yeah.
5 turnovers in a row. And it was some of the flukiest plays. The one where Winston is just falling back and slaps the ball out of his own hand. You've seen running backs who run for 10, 12 yards, get stripped from behind. I mean, it was just one of them games that no matter who had the ball, they were going to turn it over. But the thing that was more impressive, Oregon took advantage of every turnover.
One. Yep.
Usually you get in a situation like that, you might score 2 or 3 out of 5.
Right.
Every time the ball was turned over, they scored.
And it took them about 30 seconds to do it.
And mentally for Florida State, that had, that's when it's demoralizing, because it's like, we just turned it over again. They're going to score again.
Crap, they scored again.
You're right. We got the ball back. We just fumbled again.
Defense, stop them for 2 plays at least so we can catch our breath.
And the defense is like, what do you mean stop them? You guys just put us back out here. So I watched Florida State. And if you have an honest opinion about Florida State, this team obviously was not as good as last year's team.
Right.
This team was more dependent on Jameis Winston to carry them. Last year's team had so much talent in so many different areas. He didn't have to do as much as he did this year to get him there. But with all that being said, Oregon's in the national championship game. But Ohio State and the performance they put on against Alabama.
I had them winning it, I will say.
I am, I know a lot of people who root for the SEC, and after New Year's Day, the SEC now stands for the Southern Excuse Conference.
Yep.
You know, because they had plenty of excuses to come up on that. But now you've got the Buckeyes in the championship game, along with the Ducks. And if you watch that game against Alabama, Cardale Jones and Ohio State moved the football on a regular basis and scored points.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I was talking to somebody that about the game after it was over with, and they were like, "Oh, Alabama gave it away." I said, "Well, no, you need to remember something. Even from the get-go, when Ohio State was down 13, 14, nothing, whatever it was because they turned the ball over twice. Not like Alabama stopped them.
Right.
So Ohio State is playing very well right now.
And I think because of the way they played against Alabama, I think they go in with an extra shot of
Confidence,
adrenaline, of
yeah.
confidence that
Oh,
we just beat Alabama.
Alabama.
Right. Now, Oregon, no disrespect to Oregon, but that's Alabama. And they ran up and down the field on Alabama. The key for Ohio State in this game, we talked about off the air,
Right.
that's the way they can slow Oregon down is by keeping the ball in their possession. Ezekiel Elliott, and Cardale Jones, and Spencer, and Devin Smith on the outside. They've got some weapons. And because they have some weapons, they've got to be able to play this thing out and play it, basically slow walk Oregon for the first 30 minutes of the game.
They got to play Princeton basketball against Oregon.
Right. Now, what Ohio State cannot do, they cannot get into a field goal for touchdown issue in terms of how they're playing this thing out with what they did against Alabama, because they traded, as you said earlier, the score was early in the game. They kicked field goals and gave up touchdowns, and with that, with the field goal touchdown margin that they had with Alabama, they were able to make that up before halftime. Against Oregon,
You ain't gonna make it up.
if you kick a field goal and they score a touchdown, you kick another field goal, they're gonna score 2 touchdowns.
Right.
And that game can get out of hand
Quick.
very fast.
And anybody that's not sure of that fact, think back to the second week of the season when Oregon destroyed a very good Michigan State team. And then remember they've had 2 more months to get even better.
Michigan State was up 28-20 in that game and lost 48-20.
As you said, 44, 48,
Right.
something like that. Yeah.
And if you look at what happened, like you said, in that game, Michigan State has always been known for its defense, always been known for its cornerbacks who
Yeah.
can play well
Right.
in press coverage on the outside. They looked
Like you and I were out there trying to guard somebody.
more like me.
Well,
I wouldn't embarrass you like that. I'll take the blame. I can't cover deep. I can't cover short.
The play in the Oregon-Michigan State game I guess if you're looking for a defining play of how good Oregon is, and I don't even remember what quarter it was in. I think it was when they were 28, 21, or whatever it was. But Mariota scrambles, he goes to his right, and then throws back to a wide open guy on the left, and the guy took it, I believe, for a touchdown. But Michigan State had Mariota sacked probably 3 times on that play.
I couldn't get him to the
They
ground.
couldn't get him to the ground.
I think, earlier this morning, Tim Tebow talked about Marcus Mariota, and he said it. Right now, he is the best player in college football.
Oh, yeah.
And we both know, whether it be on the basketball side or the football side, when you go into a game knowing that you got the best guy, our guy is better than your guy.
Than any guy you got.
That's it. Hands down, our guy's better. That gives a little confidence to other areas on the field.
Yeah, right,
Defensively, you're a little looser because hey,
You quit thinking. You just play.
play. Because you're like, hey, I got number
I got
9
it.
over there.
Yeah.
And he's going to come in and he's going to do something crazy and score on you guys. So, like you said, I can play loose. I can jump routes. I can take shots at balls. I can try to strip somebody, which if I'm playing and I don't have that guy, I got to be sure of everything I do.
Right.
I got to, every tackle I make has to be a form tackle. I can't run up and try to strip the ball from you because if I miss and your guy takes off and score, I don't know if our guy can come back and get that score back for me.
Right.
But when I got Marcus Mariota, he's going to get the score back for me every time, anytime. And so the mindset is a little different on the defensive side for Oregon compared to what I think the guys on the defensive side of Ohio State will be playing with going into this game.
Ohio State's got Urban Meyer, who's probably right now, this point in time, the best coach in college football.
Mm-hmm.
But what's remarkable to me is when you line up all the stats, Oregon, Ohio State, side by side, how remarkably close they are.
Mm-hmm.
If you had told Woody Hayes 30 years ago, 2014 Ohio State team's going to be averaging 40 plus points a game,
He died right then.
right then and there, he just would have
Take me
fell
now.
And what makes that even more intriguing is Ohio State's at 40, 41 points a game are averaging. Oregon's averaging 45 a game,
Mm-hmm.
and everywhere you look down that stat line, they're within a place or two of each other, whether it be first, third, first, second, whatever it may be. So I think I just hope that the ball game Monday night will live up to what the stats tell us it should live up to, and that'll be a great football game. I know you're going to ask for a prediction, and I'll just get it out of the way now. But as I told you off the air, my heart, because we're Big Ten people here, is with Ohio State. But my brain's telling me you're not going to stop Marcus Mariota. And it may end up being a 49-47 game or, 51-49, whatever, or something like that. In a perfect world, it'd be like 88-83 or something like that. So
I got a feeling. Now, obviously, this might be acid indigestion because it's in my
you
gut.
did have
I did have Chinese, yeah. And the ginger ale's not helping. But I got a feeling it's not going to be as high scoring as the bowl games were on New Year's Day.
Right.
I got a feeling that something's going to tighten up just a little bit on both sides, and we're not going to get the points.
Well, it's history. It's history making.
Yeah.
So that if they're at some point in time between now and Monday, I think each one of them young men are going to go, oh, we get to do something really special.
We are in the first
Ever.
collegiate championship game ever. And with that being said, I'm going to go with Ohio State, going to your point about Big Ten country. And I just can't see Mariota championship game playing that perfect game that he's been playing all. It's like Kershaw for the Dodgers.
Mm-hmm.
You can't touch him in the regular season.
When can you touch him? I'm sorry.
In
Go
the
ahead.
playoffs
Against who?
against the Bucks.
Oh, when we go to commercial break, I'll show you this thing I got for the Cubbies.
Oh, okay.
That
Sporting News did pick them to win the World Series this year, but
they've been picking themselves for 100 and
hey, it's 109. But anyway, who's counting? Not me, my alter ego. I'm going to Ohio State 28, Oregon 24.
Like I said, I could see that. I could easily see that because Ohio State is clicking, and they got Urban Meyer. But I just want it to be an exciting game. And full disclosure, I got Papa Del's Pizza as a bet. Oregon wins. So, we'll see. We'll see. It should be a great ball game. I'm hoping it lives up to the hype.
Okay, well, it should. Oh,
Who's he? New guy? Intern?
glad you could come back.
Station business.
Understood.
Hey, I got some Chicago Bull tickets to give away.
The Bulls, as Magic Johnson used to say.
They're playing the Milwaukee Bucks tomorrow at the United Center, 7 o'clock game. Gates open at 5:30. If you wish to go to this game, I got 1, 2, 3, 4 pair of tickets, so you can take a friend.
4 pair.
4 pair.
Meaning 8 tickets.
8 tickets. So give me a call, 359-9227. We'll make sure you get these tickets. But you got to get here before 4:30 because at 4:01, I'm out of here. A caller, Joe, called and said, Dallas and Green Bay can go toe-to-toe any way they want to.
It's called.
Anyway, he got that over there. So we're gonna have to go to commercial break, and when we come back, I'm going with Ohio State as well.
Oh.
So when we come back, we got some guys got elected into the Baseball Hall of Fame. The investigator for NFL, what's his name, Robert Mueller, said that he has no physical evidence.
Prima facie.
That the NFL received that tape. What?
Nothing.
That
Prima facie, buddy.
Okay, whatever.
fax that email.
I'll do that. Put them on hold. Here I come. So we'll be back with after this commercial break.
Stovall, Cox, and doing station business.
Yeah, you know I got
For nothing.
that too.
Do we have your grace for the last part of the show? Or?
No, I got to go back over and do this paperwork, but you guys go ahead. I just want to show my face one more time.
Nothing like a face for radio. Cheers, Sam.
That'd be me. I'll be back before we close.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks for the warning.
All right, appreciate it. Hey, watch that napkin in your back pocket. Hey, you know what I'm going to do?
Hey, does this mean I get to move to the front row? Heck yeah. Yes, I'm important now.
He finally got the facts. Come on up, Euchre.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, let's talk about your alma mater.
Illinois State University in the FCS championship tomorrow, taking on North Dakota State.
The Dynasty North Dakota State.
The Bison.
The Bison.
You know, this time last year, the young man, Green, who's a quarterback over at Illinois State, probably had no idea him transferring would affect this much change for two programs.
Right.
Because I think Indiana really expected him to be their quarterback. And I've still yet to hear the full story of what happened. There's been rumors that, you know, he fell out with the coach over at Indiana University, and they just had an amicable parting of the ways where it was just like, good riddance, I'm gone.
Yeah, right.
You know.
You're fired. No, I quit.
Right. And now he goes to Illinois State. And to me, what's amazing is how one kid or one player, and we talked earlier about the NFL, how important the quarterback position is, can come into a university like ISU and take them all the way to. Now, obviously, he's got help from his teammates.
Right.
But to change the face of that program that fast, to me, is amazing. And now they're going to be playing, as you said, in the championship game tomorrow. And I think this is the first time in eons that you've had this kind of attention placed on the FCS championship. Now, I know last year, or a couple years ago, Eastern was really getting, a lot of flavor because
Garofalo and whoever.
You had Tony G, and then you also, with Dino Babers as a coach,
right.
You had a lot of fanfare down there at Charleston. And now here it is going into 2015, and you kick the season off with a championship game. And that game's down in Texas, too, isn't it?
I think it's in Fort Worth, I believe.
Fort Worth, yeah.
Somewhere right around there, yeah.
Because a big contingent of ISU alumni down in that area bought a billboard that says, "Welcome, ISU Redbirds." I got to see that yesterday, and they are really banging a drum for this particular game. And I just think it's neat, as you said, being my alma mater. You don't think about, especially a school the size of Illinois State,
Right.
being involved in the national conversation for championship football, basketball, etc. So for them to be there, I think it's just, a fantastic deal. And I think this groundswell of support by the alumni in terms of the game being down in Texas and really trying to root them on to victory, I think is a big thumbs up to all the folks who are associated with Illinois State. So I will be very, very pleased if the Redbirds can pull this thing off and beat the Bison of North Dakota State.
They are tough every year, though.
And I was just going to say,
They are tough.
if you really want to see, just like about this, if the folks who deal with Division I football paid attention on how they run their system in 1AA or FCS, this is a real playoff right here.
Right, exactly. Because it's what, 16 teams?
16 teams, and and higher seeded teams get home games.
Right.
And that's basically how you play it down. You play it down from all these home games until you get to the championship game, and then they have a neutral site for the championship game. I think it's the way to do it. I know about, on the BCS level, the money and revenue that's generated by bowls. I respect that. I understand that. But I really think that this is the roadmap of what Division I football needs to get to if they want to really have a true playoff and a true. Because you don't get to you get 16 teams in. TCU's not complaining.
Right.
Baylor's not complaining. Those teams are not complaining. And, for example, we saw it with the bowl games. Teams like Mississippi and Mississippi State get to show who they really are.
Right.
And they're not as good as everybody thought they were. And, a Wisconsin may get a shot.
Or Michigan State.
Michigan State, gets a shot. But you get more teams in there, and you really generate some more excitement in this thing. And I just hope that they can do the same thing.
And you generate more revenue.
Yeah.
Because if they do it like 1AA does, you've got, everybody that ISU played or North Dakota State played, they were playing them at home. Mm-hmm. So people came to their campuses. Locally the economy gets a little boost and all that stuff. And I'm sure the NCAA got their slice of the pie. Mm-hmm. But back in the early 2000s, I was up in Michigan, and Grand Valley State was it. Okay. Brian Kelly. And Grand Valley State's in Allendale, Michigan, which is just outside of Grand Rapids a little bit. Mm-hmm. But toward the end of December, it's freaking cold up there. And there's a lot of snow. But that little bitty field they had, that little bitty stadium they had to play football in, was packed every time they played a game. Of course, they won like 3 out of 4 championships. Okay. But it just the excitement level and to quote a president, the trickle-down effect of everything. Mm-hmm. I know Urban Meyer was saying the other day, I need 750 million football players on scholarship because this is their 15th game.
Right.
But it's not like it's 15 consecutive weeks with no breaks whatsoever.
Right.
So, but I completely agree. 1AA, FCS, whatever it's called, the way they do their playoff is the way the big boys should be looking at it.
Yep. I totally agree on that. Speaking of big boys, going back to the NFL, I know we didn't talk too much about this, but Robert Mueller did his investigation of the Ray Rice, that really
fiasco.
Was more of the tape.
Right.
Did someone in NFL securities receive the videotape of Rice punching his then fiancee in the elevator, where everybody, NFL office, threw their hands up and said, "Hey,
we haven't seen it."
Right, me no see, me no speaky, me no hear it. And his report came out and basically said there was no finding, no cause that anyone found that. But I'm wondering now, because you're going to be coming up on with the Super Bowl. This is when Goodell does his State of the Union address of the league. It was right around that time last year when all of this stuff kind of the story broke, and Goodell kind of tried to handle this thing, like the Godfather, for lack of a better term. Come to my office, you tell me the story.
You've been summoned.
Someone's kissed the ring, Ray, and all is forgotten. And then obviously, as we went through this year, it was not forgotten, and the domino effect with some other players, and then culminating with the Adrian Peterson issue. What do you expect that's going to happen this year, now that, for the lack of a better term, the NFL got caught with their pants down?
He's got an ego, which he needs to have for the job that he has. Talking about Goodell. Mm-hmm. But having said that, I don't think he's a complete idiot. So I think it would be wise, because we've talked about this on the show about who's spending the money. It's the females, the wives, the whatever's in the family, the female half of the equations. I think he needs to come out and say, just admit, okay, we screwed it up, could have handled it better, and I know he's already done that to a degree. But if this is your big State of the NFL speech, then I think that you need to go back and reiterate that, and reiterate the fact that, the what's it called, personal conduct policy has changed, and and if there truly is zero tolerance, just speak about those things again and give examples and whatnot if you can. Not necessarily specific to a player or an NFL employee, but I think a lot of people remember how crappy he handled it all.
Yeah.
Because you hear about Adrian Peterson's appeal. The arbitrator said no, whatever, but the NFL Players Association, I think there's been a lot of, for lack of a better term, backdoor meetings going on between the commissioner's office and the NFLPA to get Goodell's feet off the fire, if you will, because I think you'd have to be pretty egotistical and, quite frankly, ignorant to think that he handled it well.
Right.
And who is it? DeMarco Smith is running the NFLPA or whatever it is. I think he's smart enough to know that if I feed you this cookie, we got a contract coming up soon.
Right.
You're gonna have to reciprocate. And we all know that. That's in businesses, whether it's a huge business like the NFL or the local union factory down the shop or down the street. If one side does the other a favor or does them a solid, it's going to come up again later. So
there's definitely a give and take there. What I'm going to be interested in on February 6th, Adrian Peterson's lawsuit against the NFL, that's when the hearing will start on that.
Right.
Because, as you just indicated, he lost his appeal. He now is been basically forced out of the NFL to April 15th. The reason why this is important is for two reasons. Number one, the draft is moved up till May.
Right.
Free agency, as we both know, starts in March.
Right.
Do the Vikings, in the position they're in right now, if they want to make a move with Adrian Peterson, this lawsuit has to be adjudicated before free agency.
Yeah.
Because if it's not, you've got all that money. I think he's probably a $20 to $25 million salary cap hit to Minnesota. And if you're the Vikings, do you say, well, with this new stadium, I talked about this before, that'll be open in 2016, do we want Peterson as the face of the franchise after, this situation here? If not, do we want to draft a Melvin Gordon, a Tavon Coleman, an Amir Abdullah, just to name three out of the Big Ten? I mean, there are a lot of young backs that will be available in this year's draft.
It's a good year for running backs.
Right. And as we both know, running backs don't get drafted in the first round anymore, so you really can get them for cheap. So they're kind of in that, catbird seat in terms of how they move, but they can't do anything until this thing is adjudicated February 6th.
So when's the Super Bowl? February 12th or something like that?
Something like that.
Yeah. So regardless of how the lawsuit turns out, and I know that it'll play, it'll be an important factor in the decision, but you just go ahead and you draft a Melvin Gordon anyway, regardless of what your plans are with Peterson, because I think we both know Adrian's 30, 31 now? Mm-hmm. So he's on the downhill side for a running back. Mm-hmm. Why not go ahead and I'm saying Gordon just because he's, he played at Wisconsin, mm-hmm. but why not go ahead and draft somebody like that or whoever it may be? And if you lose the suit and Peterson has to be reinstated, okay, reinstate him and then, cut his butt if you want, or just let him play out the year, or don't put him in uniform but never play him.
Right.
So, I mean,
and that's why I said, they are in a so-called catbird seat in terms of they've got many ways to move, but I think the other thing, going back to tying this in with Goodell, it's going to go to your point about the personal conduct policy of the NFL, depending on how this lawsuit goes. Because when we're talking about domestic violence, I think everybody can agree it's the most deplorable thing that can happen. And you talked about protecting 50% or more of your consumer base.
Right.
But now we're talking about parenting. Now, I know some people are immediately jump on and say, no, Joe, it's not parenting. He abused his child, blah, blah, blah. But what we are really talking about parenting.
Yeah.
Now, most of us may say, hey, that was excessive. But we've heard from other people on the other side who say, hey, this is the way he was raised. This is the way people in the South, yada, yada, yada.
Right.
How far-reaching can your personal conduct policy get when it almost gets to the point of telling people what they can and cannot do with their children? And then how does that play out when we're talking about contract negotiation?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you do that, and I mean, if you think about it, the NFL is predominantly an African American league at the skill positions, if not even the O and D line anymore, and a lot of those kids, young men, are coming out of the South because that's where every college goes to Florida, Texas, California.
There you go.
To recruit, because that seems to be where all the speed is at, and all those things. But so as you know, if you write somebody a policy and part of that policy conflicts with the state law takes precedence.
Right.
So I think there's a lot smarter people than I can ever dream to be that will sit down and figure all those things out. But as a league, I think you're overstepping your bounds. Just like my job. If my job says you can't take your kids to get hamburgers because it's red meat,
right.
Well, I'm not working for you.
Right.
So.
And that's why, like I said, this is why, I know we talk a lot about Goodell, but I really think the lawsuit trumps precedent over Goodell in this personal conduct. Because now you're going to get a federal magistrate to make a decision.
Case law.
And when that case law is written,
yep.
You just talked about how state law trumps corporate policy.
Right.
So now we're going to get into a guy in the off season lives in Louisiana. And it's okay to spank your kids in Louisiana.
But he plays in Minnesota.
Right.
Yeah. And Minnesota it's not. So.
Right.
Well, I think that comes down to where the, quote, offense occurred. Because, I mean, local law is going to cover things anyway. But in a broader sense, that personnel policy issue is how do you word it to, from the NFL's perspective, get what you want, but from the NFLPA's perspective, also get what you want. And that's where I was talking about people much smarter than I can ever hope to be will be able to sit down and figure that out and word it appropriately as to not offend the NFL, not offend the Players Association, and not offend all those women whose kids are going to take me to a football game.
Yeah.
And that's the dilemma.
Well, perfect segue when you talk about being offended.
Where's ours? Where did we go?
Major League Baseball just had their Hall of Fame.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And Randy Johnson, John Smoltz, Pedro Martinez, 3 great pitchers, all got inducted, along with, on his third try, Craig Biggio, a 3,000 hit guy from the Houston Astros.
Part of the Killer Bees.
Now, where I'm offended at, and we go through this dance every year. We watch the NFL do their Hall of Fame, and you see 5, 6, sometimes 7 guys go in. We watch the Pro Basketball Hall of Fame, 5, 6, 7 players, go in. Some years with Major League Baseball, you may have 1, 2. This year's 4, which is the first time since 55?
Something like that, yeah.
That they've had this many players. To me, that's where I'm offended.
Because?
Why does it have to be a limit? It's almost like saying, I recognize that Mike Cox is a Hall of Fame baseball player, but because we got 4 of the guys that are going to go in,
He has to wait.
he has to wait.
Yeah, that's idiotic. But when you think about who votes for the Hall of Fame, and that explains a lot.
Yeah, but and the reason why I brought it up, you just talked about Craig Biggio, great player for the Astros, part of Killer Bees. Bagwell doesn't get in.
But why? Because he's got that steroid thing hanging over his head.
Right, but let's walk through that. And that's where, like I said about living in glass houses, that's the sickening part about Major League Baseball. Every generation or every era of baseball has a stigma about it.
Right.
Whether it be the dead ball, whether
Or the cork bats.
or the fact that at a certain period of time, only Caucasian males played in it, or this group didn't play, or there's always been, every generation, there's been something
Right.
about that group. So you can't compare the 30s to the 40s. The 40, you think about the 40s. You had a lot of guys, World War II, didn't get a chance to play or went over, so their careers got short.
Right.
Then you get guys that come in the 50s, integration starts to happen in. So the guys who played in the 50s can't compare it to the 40s.
And at the end of the 50s, you got the Korean War going on.
Bingo. Then what started happening? Now you started getting Dominican players and Hispanic players starting to move into Juan Marichal, guys like that, the Roberto Clementes. You start seeing those guys in the influx into the league. So my point is, every generation, you can always say, well, Mike's generation wasn't that good because.
Right.
Or, like you said, now the thing that is really hanging over the voters' head is this steroid thing. Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens got about 36% of the vote. I will say this right now, go on record. I don't care what Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens did after the turn of the century. They were Hall of Fame players.
Before
that even happened.
You're right.
When Bonds was in Pittsburgh, he was a 40-40 guy when he weighed 150 pounds.
And his head was my size.
And he wore a size 7 hat.
Smaller than my size.
His head was much smaller. His head was about as big as these microphones.
The duck's head.
Right. Well, it's debatable, depending on where the duck's going. But it's on TV, people. But my point,
I agree.
That these guys are playing this holier than thou, like they're carrying the Holy Grail.
Right.
And no, you cannot get in
But the people who vote on the Hall of Fame of Baseball, the Baseball's Writers Association of America, I think it is. And it's a bunch of old white guys that look like me, who grew up watching baseball played in the 50s and the 60s when it was a purer game. And quite frankly, that's crap.
But think about what they do to themselves. There are baseball writers who won't even vote in other baseball writers.
Because
that Cox. Cox knocked the mustard off my hot dog. We were in Fenway Park, and he bumped into me, and I spilled my drink. And so he's never gonna, even though he's the greatest writer of all time.
Right.
I mean, I think like I look at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Obviously, we don't condone guys' behavior off the field in terms of like a Michael Irvin.
Right.
In terms of, but when Michael Irvin was on between the lines and not doing lines. He's one of the greatest receivers of all time.
Yep.
That's why he's in the Hall of Fame.
Exactly.
None of the other stuff matters. And I think that's the issue, and like I said, offense about the Baseball Hall of Fame and the baseball writers is they're playing this purity game, as you said earlier. But if you want to play the purity game, you really would have to do that litmus test for every person that's in the hall.
Right.
And I guarantee you.
Ty Cobb. Yeah, okay.
There you go.
If that's the criteria that they have to be perfect off the field too, Ty Cobb's never in the Hall of Fame.
Mickey Mantle would
they
burn the Hall of Fame down.
Yeah. And there are others y'all can think about who they are, but Babe Ruth for that matter.
Juan Marichal attacked the guy with a baseball
bat.
But
dang near hit him.
Right. But the thing is that, like you said, whether it be Babe Ruth, Ty Cobb, Mickey Mantle, or whoever, when they played the game, they were great.
Awesome. Yeah.
They were the greatest of all time. And that, as a baseball fan, that's where I'm at with this, and that's where I'm offended, is because you're offending, first of all, my sensibility. Because you're telling me, I sat there and watched them play, but I don't know what a Hall of Fame player looks like.
Or someone who's really good looks like. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
You know, and I think that's where the biggest issue, and I know, you know, obviously they have their own criteria that compared to other Hall of Fames.
Allegedly.
But what I'm hoping to, me and you talk about this off the air. First thing needs to happen, Pete Rose needs to be put in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, absolutely does.
Yesterday.
Yep.
Yesterday. And people can call and...
Johnny Bench be damned.
There you go. Because what I'm going to look at Johnny Bench and ask him is, when Pete Rose was your teammate, did Pete Rose make you a better team, and did he help you win multiple World Series? And the answer is yes.
Well, I had the misfortune a long time ago of interviewing Bench, and he cannot stand Pete Rose at all. At all. Doesn't even want to hear his name mentioned. But then that, to me, makes Johnny Bench arrogant and some other colorful words I can't use because the FCC may be listening.
But a question I would still look at Johnny Bench and say, hey,
was he key to the Big Red Machine?
If Pete Rose is not on the Big Red Machine, if Charlie Hustle's not out there at third base and running around and diving head first into the bases and getting 4,100 hits.
Do you guys win as many world championships as you do? And I think my gut feeling is, as you believe, no, they wouldn't.
No.
So,
Yeah.
just one thing about the Hall of Fame thing, I saw this and I thought this was great. Darren Erstad, who played for California Angels, good ball player, couple-time All-Star, received one Hall of Fame vote. His response on Twitter to that was, "What was the guy thinking?" And I thought was really nice. What a lot of people, he's the baseball coach in Nebraska now. He went to school in Nebraska, but he was the punter on their football team. Mm-hmm. And some guy put on Twitter, he said, "Well, you know, Darren Erstad was the best punter in Major League Baseball." So I just thought it was really neat that he'd be like, "What was that guy thinking?"
Right, like, why would he even waste a vote?
For me.
Voting for me. Well, like I said, I really hope, you know, moving forward, you know, a lot of stuff that, you know, I understand the social sensitivities that occur with athletes because of hero worship.
Right.
And when, you know, you find out that, you know, like when I was a kid, when you found out that a particular athlete smoked cigarettes, you're like, no, he didn't. No, not him. Come on.
I won't mention a particular assistant basketball coach at U of I that played for the Bulls. That surprised me when I saw that.
Right. But I mean, things like that. But as we've grown as a society, and information is readily available for everything.
Right.
You can basically Google anything you want, you know, or fax an email.
Right. Exactly.
You know, and get put in the front row.
Yes. Finally.
When those things occur, to me, it's an open book. And because it's an open book, that's when I think on this purity stand, you actually have to step away from it. You know, because if they did this litmus test, as I said earlier, on all these guys, you know.
Well, and part of it is, as you get older, you begin to realize things aren't as Disney World as everybody says they are.
That's it. I mean, the things I learned about Sarge later in my life.
Oh, my goodness.
Whew,
Yeah,
it went from PG to R. That's all I'm going to say. It went from PG to R.
Don't Google me.
You won't come up unless you're in the front row.
No.
You know. So,
and you have a fax machine.
They fax him the email. Well, Sam,
Let me tell you the reason why I did that, because I had already printed out the email.
Okay.
I had already printed out the email.
Did you delete it?
No, I didn't.
You hit a button that says forward, right?
No, but I was not on there then. That's the reason why I just said I'd go ahead and fax it to him.
Well, one of the great things about WBCP is when great people walk in, like Reverend Claudie Shelby, who just walked in and handed me a placard for the Dream yesterday, today, and tomorrow. The service of celebration. This is going to occur on Sunday, January 18th, 2015 at 5 p.m. It's going to be at the Great Hall, Cranner Center for Performing Arts. Speaker, as I just indicated, Reverend Dr. Claudie Shelby Sr., President, Dr. MLK Jr. Advocacy, and pastor of Salem Baptist Church. There's going to be music, sponsors, speakers, the whole nine. So if you have an opportunity coming up 2 weeks, or actually was it a week from Sunday. Get on over to Cranard. Also on Monday, the Unity Breakfast, the annual Martin Luther King Jr. birthday celebration, Monday, January 19th at the Vineyard Church, 1500 North Lincoln Avenue in Urbana. It'll start off at 8:30. It's 8:30 to 10:30 to be exact. Guest speaker then will be Chief of Champaign Police Department, Anthony Cobb. And like I said, you can get out there and be able to participate in the annual Unity Breakfast. So the dream, yesterday, today, and tomorrow, service celebration, Sunday, January 18th, 5 p.m. at the Greater Hall, Cranard Center of Performing Arts, and the Unity Breakfast, Monday, January 19th at the Vineyard Church, 1500 North Lincoln Avenue, 8:30 to 10:30 a.m., and the speaker then will be Anthony Cobb. So get out, support, and continue to dream.
Sure you don't want to say nothing, Rick?
Well, thank you very much, Sam, and to the Talking Sports crew. God bless you. Thank you for announcing the event that's coming up. And one side note about Anthony Cobb, he was in our first class of scholarship winners in 1988. And so you see where he's gone from high school into college and then chief of police in Champaign. So thank you very much. We invite you all to come out and share. This is our 30th annual celebration, and I know that many of you know about it, but just a reminder, thank you very much to all of our sportsmen for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Not a problem. Appreciate you, Reverend Shelby.
Now, anytime. We already in OT. Anything going on locally?
First time this year, Central Centennial will play on Saturday at Centennial. Interesting thing about that game, it is a non-conference game. Because in the Big 12, with the addition of the Peoria schools, each school is playing a one-game round robin with everybody in the conference. The only way we could have a two-game home-and-home event with Central and Centennial, one of the games had to be a non-conference, which will be this Saturday. All conference games are played on Tuesday and Friday. So tonight, if you're not doing anything you want to get out of the frigid cold, go over to Combs Gym. Champaign Central takes on Peoria and Notre Dame. And then on Saturday, get on over to the Chargers Gym to check out Champaign Central taking on Champaign Centennial in their crosstown rival renewed.
All right, I can give away one pair of Cub.
You give them all away, those. Who cares?
It's contagious.
No, not really.
It's like Ebola.
Really?
You start coughing and spitting and
Well, we only got, what, about 9 weeks?
Yeah.
oh, for pitchers and catchers?
Yeah.
Pitcher and catchers report in a couple weeks.
Yeah, in February.
Yeah, I diggity dog.
About 6
Yes,
weeks
sir.
on that.
You know, the Cardinals trying to get.
I don't care who the Cardinals trying to get.
Oh, anyway, we're talking
Back to the Future told you. Michael J. Fox said it best. The Cubs won the World Series.
against the Marlins. Imagine that.
Yeah, imagine that.
All right.
Before we go, I just want to say something about, for those of us that do this all the time, Stuart Scott spent 21 years at ESPN, and as anybody that may have been paying attention last weekend noticed from the countless tributes, he changed the way we talk about sports with his catchphrases and whatnot. And back in the day when I was originally doing this, at the end of every little 15-minute sport thing on Saturday, I'd just throw out there a see ya thing, and people recognize me by that. But Stuart Scott started all that, and when the news broke that he had passed away Sunday, and I got to looking at stuff, it is truly amazing how many catchphrases he would throw out there. One of my favorites is "cooler than the other side of the pillow." The other night, I think it was Monday or Tuesday night, on the Big Ten Network, Mike Hall and Stephen Bardo did a little piece, but Mike Hall did a 5-minute segment on Mike Hall and Stuart Scott had a history, a good one, but he did a really nice piece on it, so I'm sure it's up on YouTube if you want to watch it, and it was amazing. And rest in peace, Stuart Scott.
Just to piggyback on what Mike said, Stuart Scott, as much fun as sports was before Stuart Scott, he made it more funner.
Yes, absolutely.
he made it more fun in the fact that he talked about sports in a way that we talk about sports.
Yeah.
When guys sit at a bar, sit in somebody's basement, sit down and with Jose and Bud and just talk sports. And I think that's why so many people like Stuart Scott, is because Stuart Scott was one of the guys.
Yeah.
And you mentioned his catchphrases. I remember one time Stuart Scott made the statement, that guy's amphibious, because he used both hands. And you knew he was being funny, you know, obviously it's ambidextrous. But by saying amphibious, what he was pointing out is how many guys like us say amphibious when we mean ambidextrous. But we won't point at anybody. But we knew what he meant.
Right.
Exactly.
That's why when people, the one thing about communication, regardless of what the words are,
Right.
when that person can communicate to you and you know what they're saying and you feel like they're talking directly to you, that to me is somebody who's a great orator and a great messenger. And Stuart Scott was both.
He was flawless.
And so, as you said earlier, he changed sports. He changed Sports Center, and he's paved the way for countless others to come in with their own catchphrases, their own style, and it's not a cookie cutter, one size fits all types programming anymore. So, rest in heaven.
He got that get away from the police speed.
See,
There you go.
there you go.
There you go.
That
There you
right there.
go.
That's the point.
Anyway, I still got some Bulls tickets left. I already gave away a pair. If you want to go to the game, give me a call, 359-9227. You have exactly
43 minutes.
No, I ain't got that long. 22 minutes.
22. Oh, Sarge is saying you got to call for the Bulls.
Because his ride's leaving at 4:30.
That's right. I'm out here at 4:31. So give me a call, 359-9227. All right, let's go do it for this edition of Talking Sports. We do this each and every Friday from 2 to 4. We'll lace them up, do it again next week. Joseph? No, I got to start over here with Michael. Hold on.
Oh, you can start. Yeah, I'm in the front row, so it's different.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you, gentlemen.
Threw me off. It threw me off. Joseph?
Hey, be sure to fax that email so I can get it on Twitter.
Hey, man, it's coming as soon as we get off there.